Welcome to Book Banter with me, your host, Dianne Burckhardt. I hope you will join me every Wednesday as we explore all things to do with, well, books. Let's get on with our show today. Hello, my happy people. Today is January 31st, 2024, and today is the last episode of our best of shows that come between our breaks between seasons. So that means next week, February 7th, we come back with all new episodes and some fantastic new authors for you to hear from. We're starting out the first 2 months of season 3 with a love fest. Since Valentine's Day falls in February, we thought we should celebrate love for a full 2 months because it is way more important than to just focus on it for one day of a year. So we're going to be bringing you authors who write everything from romantic love, from mild to very hot and spicy. Books about lost love, how to love yourself, how to find your love of life. And we're even going to throw a few poets in to our Book Banter Magazine for February and March. So be sure to come back next week as we start our all-new Season 3 with 2 months of Love Fest. Now, let's get on with today's show, where we are bringing back the incredible Sagit Schwartz, where she talks about her book, which is dropping on February 6th. It is her debut novel and is already getting rave reviews from best-selling authors. You don't want to miss this. So sit back and enjoy this episode as Sagit Schwartz talks about her debut novel, Since She's Been Gone. Today, I am so excited because we have an author whose book has not even been released yet, but is already getting some incredible reviews from New York Times bestselling authors. Can you please introduce yourself to our audience and tell us who you are and what you do?
My name is Sagit Schwartz, and my debut thriller novel, Since She's Been Gone, will be released February 6th, 2024. I am a writer and licensed psychotherapist. I'm also a wife and a mother.
I was looking through your website getting ready for this interview, and I could not believe you already have reviews from Laura Prescott, who is a New York Times bestselling author of The Secrets We Keep, and also from Laura Lippman, who wrote The Lady in the Lake.
Who is the New York Times bestselling author of many books, including Lady in the Lake, which is coming out next year as a television show on Apple TV, starring Natalie Portman in her first limited television series.
Wow, I did not see anything about that.
Yeah.
How did you end up getting reviews from them?
I'm very fortunate. I've spent time getting to know authors in the writer community, and I'm lucky enough to call some of them my friends now. So one thing about the author community, self-published authors, indie authors, traditionally published authors, people really lift each other up. And it's one of the things I love most about being an author. It's the people that you meet along the way, like you, Dianne. We got connected through JC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, JC Fuller. I love her. She's fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And very kind and generous, too, in terms of her support of other authors.
Oh, definitely. Now, this book is a suspense thriller. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, it's a dual timeline thriller that's emotionally charged about a woman who learns the mom she lost to a hit and run 25 years before might still be alive and keeping dangerous secrets. She's a practicing psychologist in her adult life, and when she was 15 years old and her mom was supposedly killed in this hit and run, she developed a life-threatening eating disorder. So the book goes back and forth in time between the past, when she was a 15-year-old girl grieving and dealing with a very serious mental health issue, and the present, when she gets bombshell news about her mom and her heart-pounding journey to uncover what really happened to her mother.
Now, I know with many authors, we always talk about how we put ourselves and our own stories somehow into the books that we write. Is there anything of you in this book?
There's a lot of me in this book, and really it's a love letter to my mom, who I lost at a young age. So it's infused with her. The letters in the book are letters she wrote me as a little girl. The eulogy of the psychologist's mother in the book is probably 75% my mom's, the eulogy that the rabbi read for my mom after she passed. And the story itself is at its heart. And you mentioned a couple of these New York Times bestselling authors and their blurbs of my book. It's about the unbreakable bond between a mother and daughter. And if you're listening to this and you don't have a particularly good relationship with your mother, it's about the unbreakable bond of someone that we love dearly who has passed. It doesn't have to be a mother. It could be a spouse, it can be a child, it can be a friend, but that bond doesn't go away when the person is gone.
Now, with this being such a personal story, how do you expect to handle some of the reviews? Because no matter what, I always tell people, whenever you put something out, it doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't matter how good it is, there's always going to be somebody who loves it, somebody who hates it, somebody who couldn't care less about it. It's always going to be a given that somebody's going to have an opinion that is not necessarily based on your work, but more their perception of your work. How do you plan to handle those that are not glowing?
I've gotten advice from other authors who are further along in their careers about this. Mm-hmm. Just basically stay away from reviews because it isn't really healthy for your mental health, and it's not meant for the author. Reviews are meant for other readers. I do have to, at this stage, look at the reviews. Well, I don't have to, but I do now look at the reviews until publication date because I use some of them in my marketing and promotional purposes. So that forces me to, notice some of the reviews that are negative. And as you say, the best-selling books that have 4.4, 4.5 rating on Goodreads have 1-star reviews. That's just the name of the game. So I take it in stride. And to your point, it is a deeply personal book. I try not to focus too much on the negative ones. I've been fortunate that I have so many good reviews. So I just focus on those and feel really grateful. The highest compliments I get, and I've had already readers reach out to me who have read advanced reader copies on NetGalley, is I couldn't put it down. I had to read it in one sitting, and that it taught them something about the nature of eating disorders, because that is a mental health issue that has really been largely left out of adult contemporary fiction. And as a licensed clinician and seeing what happened during the pandemic with the meteoric rise, particularly among youth, when it comes to eating disorders, I wanted to help raise awareness. I even had one parent reach out to me that read a NetGalley arc and thanked me for writing it because her child is in recovery. And she said it helped them understand better what they're going through. So those are the wins. And I wrote a thriller with depth, a thriller that many readers say is unputdownable, that will also hopefully help raise awareness and teach people about eating disorders who might not know about them, so they can help loved ones who are struggling.
And even though this is your first novel, this isn't your first writing experience.
No. I worked in Hollywood before this. I've written tons of short stories. It isn't my first writing experience.
Because you have actually had work in The Atlantic, Medium, Slate.
Oh, yes. And you are a good researcher. Yes. A lot of articles and magazines too. Correct. Yes.
And you've also recently had a tweet quoted.
Yeah, that was in Newsweek's. Surprisingly, I didn't even know. Newsweek didn't contact me, but I have a Google alert set up since I got this book deal and have a book coming out, so that if any reviews or anything comes along related to my book, I will be alerted to it. And I saw Newsweek and I thought, what, the advanced reader copies have not been sent to press yet. Like, what is that? And then I noticed, it was about the female entertainment economy and women shaping it in terms of Barbie and Beyonce and everything that's been going on this summer, the Eras tour. Yeah, it was called out.
Yeah, I always think it's so funny whenever Hollywood is surprised that women spend money on movies they want to see.
Here's the thing. I was actually talking to my husband about this, because in this next coming year, and just if you look in the last year, so many of the adaptations for these TV series and movies are books, and they tend to be books that women wrote. Apple TV cited The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave as their number one viewed show ever.
Oh, wow.
And that's a female author. That book has sold millions of copies around the world. Mm-hmm. And she's a female author and wrote about a female protagonist. And it's just one example. And there are several books coming out, book to film TV adaptations that are coming out next year where it's the same thing. So they're somehow acquiring these books and this IP to be adapted because they know there's this built-in readership audience already established with the book, yet they seem mystified when Barbie makes over $1 billion. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Do you see that changing anytime soon, or do we still have to trudge along for a while, do you think?
I think that the industry right now it's such a crossroads apart from this issue.
Yeah.
With the strikes and AI, I just don't know what is going to happen. I don't think anybody does at this point.
Yeah, I would imagine that at some point there has to be a drastic change, but everybody's going to be fighting tooth and nail who like status quo. they
right.
won't want to change. So it'll be interesting to see how long they drag their feet until they finally start moving with the crowd's desire.
Well, again, I think the fact that these books are being adapted, so many are coming out next year with women at the heart, written by women, that I think when those do really well, then that success tends to beget success. So they might seek out other books with strong readership following that tend to be women. I'm generalizing, but statistically, it is known that more books are read by women than men. That's just the deal.
Yeah.
Book clubs, all of that. That's just reality.
Now, I've had a few traditionally published authors on the show, but I never really talked to them about the process that they went through. What did you do to find your publisher?
Well, first, you have to go through the process of getting an agent and querying and sending letters to get an agent. And you'll get a lot of rejections along the way. And then after you get an agent, then the agent works with you, depending on if they want you to make certain changes to the manuscript or not, before they take it out to market. Once your agent goes out to market with it, my agent first went out to a small number of editors, and then they have to take it to an editorial meeting. But before they do so, they have to garner support within the publishing house and get other people to read it so that they can go into the meeting and a bunch of people say, yes, we like it. We think it could sell for this reason, or et cetera, et cetera.
So how long did that process take you to get your book to a publisher who took it?
It felt like the process from when my agent went out with it to when I got a deal. My agent, I think she went out with it in June or July, and I got a deal by October. I've heard that's extremely fast. I mean,
Yeah.
I've heard stories of people being out on submission for a year and a half. I've heard stories countless stories of people having books die on submission. That's also very common. I've listened to podcasts where an author says, my first 4 books died on submission. So it went very quickly by publishing standards, but it didn't feel quick to me at all.
Well, yeah. I mean, because you're the one sitting on pins and needles waiting for that answer.
Yeah.
But I think for anybody who is interested in a suspense thriller book, that right there, how quickly it went to a publishing deal, should give people an indication that they are going to want to pick this book up.
I'm very blessed that it sold as quickly as it did. And actually today, I just learned that the audio rights sold at auction.
Oh,
so
wow.
It'll be coming out as an audiobook as well. And I'm very excited about that because I'm a huge, huge audiobook listener. Probably 80% of the books I now consume are via audio, and the other 20% are the physical or digital electronic versions of books.
Yeah, it's amazing just how popular. You can almost make a career just putting your books out in audio, not even doing any of the others. They are extremely popular.
I think audio's on a meteoric rise. I really do, because people like listening when they're in the car driving to work. I listen when I exercise each day. I walk a couple miles a day and I listen then. Sometimes I'll listen to podcasts too, but I really enjoy listening to books when I walk.
What is it about this process being traditionally published that you have really enjoyed? What do you think is beneficial about being traditionally published?
I have had the most amazing editor. She helped me elevate this book to a place that I wouldn't have been able to do on my own. I know a lot of indie authors work with editors, so they do so for a reason. So I'm particularly grateful for the editor that acquired this book and that I've been able to work with. Her name is Jess Verdi at Crooked Lane. Another part is my publisher came up with the title that the book now has. I had a different title, and I think this title is much better than what I had. And lastly, the cover. I'm so happy with the cover of the book. And again, that was what they've done. So to answer your question, you have a whole team helping and collaborating with you. You have a bunch of brains trying to make your book better.
Now, is there anything that you wish you could streamline, something that you wish was a little bit easier?
Well, I think I alluded to it earlier. You know, you're just like waiting and waiting for other people to determine your fate. If you're indie or self-published, you decide when you want to release your book. You decide everything. So it's not, is it going to be going out in the world? It's when. You're in charge.
Did you want to go ahead and read a little bit from your book?
Sure. I will read from the first paragraph when our protagonist, the psychologist, is at her office. And again, I'm not giving anything away because this is the first couple of pages of the book. And she has a new patient coming into her office, or so she thinks. The call light turns on. She's 15 minutes early. Left to my own devices, I'd bring her in now. Setting boundaries is something I have to continually work on. But I remind myself that if I do it this time, she'll expect it the next. And next time I might not be able to if I have a patient before her. I scroll through the news on my cell phone instead. After 15 minutes, I leave my office to get her from the waiting area. She's seated on a chair wearing a nondescript black baseball cap with her head facing down. Both of her knees are nervously bopping up and down, and one of her hands is wound tightly in a fist. Anxiety disorder? As soon as she notices me, she jumps up. She looks like she's in her early 20s, but there's a worry on her face that ages her. I bring her into my office, close the door behind us, and motion for her to sit on the couch. Please take a seat. I only have a few minutes, she interrupts, still standing. I'm not here for therapy. What? I came in early because she made it sound like she needed to be seen as soon as possible. I don't understand, I admit. Your mother's in danger. I'm sorry? I've heard a lot of things over the last decade between the walls of this 250 square foot office, but this is a first. You need to find her to let her know, she implores. My mom died 26 years ago, I tell her, though I don't owe her an explanation. The woman shakes her head. No, she didn't. My chest feels like it's starting to burn. This isn't funny, I say. I risked my life by coming here, she says. She bites down on her lip nervously. The people after her will come after me too if they found out I met with you. Who are you, I demand. It's not safe for either of us if you know. You need to find Irene and warn her, but don't go to the police, FBI, any type of law enforcement. That'll put her in more danger. I heard she's somewhere in the Bay Area. You need to tell her she's in trouble again. Again? My mother is alive and in trouble again? I don't know who put this woman up to this, maybe a former disgruntled patient, but it feels like the cruelest, sickest joke anyone could tell, and I want her out of my office. Now. Leave, I say. I didn't think you'd believe me, she says, opening her tightly wound fists. That's when I see it. A gold bracelet with a Tiffany lima bean charm, just like the one Mom wore, the one the police told Dad had been stolen after the hit and run accident. I'll stop there.
That is so good. That's a good place to stop, too. It's like a nice little cliffhanger.
Anyway, that's the setup of the book.
So go ahead and give us the title again, and where can people buy your book when it gets published?
The title of the book is Since She's Been Gone. It is available to pre-order everywhere right now. Amazon, Target, Walmart, any indie bookstore, you name it. You can Google it and pre-order it. And pre-orders are actually really important because they show the publisher that there's a level of enthusiasm for the book before it comes out. So anyone listening to this can pre-order it now, and it's available currently to pre-order digitally or the hardback cover. It will also be available to purchase via audio, but that won't happen until after its release on February 6th.
Now, are you going to be doing any public appearances or talks or interviews? Build up the hype. I'm
hoping I'm going to, and also magazine features as well.
Very nice. Now, this is the part of the show where we like to do 5 quick questions that never turn out to be quick, but we still keep doing it anyway. Are you ready?
Yes.
Number 1. Since you have been a therapist, I feel you've probably advised people on how to do some self-care. So what is your favorite number 1 self-care tip?
I think doing something that feeds your soul, whether it be going to a museum, a walk in nature, whatever really nourishes you, and only a person can answer that for themselves.
So question 2, do you like to listen to music when you're either writing or reading? And if so, what do you listen to?
I am always amazed at people who can do that, like my husband and daughter can. I cannot listen to music while I am writing or reading. My brain doesn't allow both of those things to happen at the same time.
I can listen to music when I'm writing, but it has to be like jazz with no words.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's the only one that works for me.
About the only noise I can handle is ambient, like at a cafe.
Oh, yeah.
That's about it. But if the conversation next to me is too loud, then that's disruptive.
Yeah. And I like that you chose a cafe. That's perfect. We have a lot of those around here.
Yeah. Oh, that's a wonderful part of living in Europe.
Oh, yeah. The best coffee. So question 3, what kind of dog do you have?
We don't know because he's a rescue dog, but we do know that he's half dachshund because of his body, the sausage link body. But the other half we don't know. And we kept his rescue name, the name that he had when we got him, because we didn't want to confuse him since he had already been rescued and taken to a place. And then we took him, and his name there was Mr. Pickles. So we just call him Pickles.
I love that, though. That's a great name. Question 4. When you got your publishing deal, did you celebrate?
I did. I went out to a cafe with my husband, excuse me, and just took it in. And I did the same when the cover reveal happened online.
Oh,
I just
nice.
feel like being an author, there's so many challenges, and you got to grab at the wins. And
Yeah.
it's so easy to get down when things aren't going your way. So when something happy happens, you should just take a magnifying glass and put it right over that happy moment to mark it.
Yeah, definitely. Question 5. If one day they decided to make a movie of your life, who would you want to play you?
Oh dear, I have no idea. I've never thought of such a thing. I don't know that I'd ever want a movie to be made about my life.
Now, would you ever write an autobiography?
No,
No.
no, fiction only. Yeah.
So what is next for you?
Right now, working on a book adaptation about a short story that I posted on the Reddit No Sleep forum. Not sure if you're familiar with it. It's the No Sleep forum has like 19 million subscribers. It's for horror lovers. My story was more thriller horror-ish, and a TikTok influencer with 6 million followers approached me to read it online, and she narrated it, and then it went viral on TikTok, and I adapted it for film. And then the strikes happened, but I do have a producer who wants to go out with it once the strikes are over. I've worked with him before. And now I'm adapting that short story into a book. So I don't know if it'll be a novella or a book, but the property has been written in short story. It's been narrated on TikTok. There's a screenplay film version ready to go out to market after the strikes are over, God willing, soon. And now it'll have its book version. It's very different in tone than my book that's coming out in February, which is heartfelt and earnest. This story, on the other hand, is twisted and unreliable narrators. It's a different kind of thriller.
Interesting.
It's about a daughter who seeks revenge on her mother's therapist and discovers she's dealing with an imposter.
That sounds intriguing. Does it have a title?
The movie is titled Dr. Porter 2.0.
And how do we find that on TikTok?
Well, the story is linked to my bio on all of my social media platforms. The Reddit No Sleep story is available for anyone to read. The film version, the short story is 2,000 words. The film version is a 93-page screenplay, and I don't know how long the book will be. In terms of TikTok, the woman that narrated it is literally Lizzie on TikTok. And you can look it up under someone impersonated my therapist and then came after me. I think that's what she has it titled on TikTok.
And I will make sure to search out all of these links and put them in the description of the podcast so that the listeners can find it all very easily. Now, is there anything that you would like them to know that we have not covered today?
Well, I would just like to thank readers for reading. And if you read my book, I'm thanking you in advance, whether you love it, like it, or hate it. I'm just so grateful for anyone who takes time out of their busy life to read words that I have put down on a page. I'll forever be grateful to readers.
I know that's one of those things. I don't think readers really understand what it means to us when they let us know, hey, I read your book, I cried, or oh my gosh, I was so scared to open the door after reading this thriller. You know, and
yes,
I think they realize
it's so meaningful.
Oh God, yeah.
It's so meaningful.
And it's so hard whenever you put something out there. The worst thing is not getting bad reviews. It's not getting any.
Right, right. And I had decided before this whole book journey, I knew that if this book didn't get sold or picked up or whatever, I was going to self-publish it one way or another. If you are determined and want to get your work out there, you can now. It's not like days before where gatekeepers literally were completely in charge about whether you could get your work out there. So it's a different deal now. And as I said, I was going to get my book out there one way or another.
So I'm sure everybody's going to be very grateful that it's coming out in February. Everyone needs to go and find it on their favorite book selling site, pre-order it, and then you'll have something to read for Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Thank you, Dianne, for having me on. I am so thankful to JC for connecting us and grateful that you took the time to interview me today.
Oh, I was looking forward to this. After JC sent me the message, I'm like, yeah, I need to talk to this person.
It's just wonderful, all that you do for readers and writers, both with this podcast and now with your magazine.
And we will also be having a book buying guide dropping for Christmas. It's going to include every author who has been on the podcast with live links to purchase their books, and yours will be in there as well.
Thank you. I am deeply grateful, Dianne.
So there you have it, folks. My interview with Sagit Schwartz. She is absolutely fascinating. So incredible. You need to go right now and pre-order her book. Check the podcast description and you can find a link to her website where you can find the best place for you to buy her book. So that's it for today, folks. Don't forget, come back next Wednesday when we're bringing you all new episodes of Book Banter with Dianne Burckhardt, the Book Talk podcast. Subscribe to our show because if you love books the way we do, you do not want to miss a single episode of this podcast. Now it's time for you all to go forth and be really happy.